All right. Welcome to the Hit Factor. My name's Jay, and I'm joined by Ben Czyzewski. And we were just talking about horticulture. And Ben, you teach. This is what you told me this before. We've talked before. But you teach, and I guarantee you know more about horticulture, specifically in this area that you do. Um, and so just say a little bit again, kind of about what you do, and then we're going to get into all of this. This is not going to be a regular interview because you've been on other podcasts. So if people want to know like other things, then they can search your name.
Sure. So I teach at a small school in upstate New York. It's like a technical college, I guess you could call it. A lot of the programs are more like trade-based programs.
Okay.
In my particular, so I teach like in a horticulture department, golf and plant sciences. In my specialization, so I have a bachelor's degree in turf grass management, and I have a master's degree in turf grass agronomy. And kids that come through my program study to go manage golf courses and be golf course superintendents. So grow grass and manage playing surfaces.
Yeah, man. And so I was just thinking when you were saying that before, I was like, my goat pastures would not be good playing surfaces.
No, so it's kind of ironic you said that because like the original golf courses, the original mower, like in Scotland, the sheep just kind of grazed and
that's cool.
Kept the turf tight, and that's where golf originated. So 200 years ago, it would have been a great playing surface.
Right.
Maybe not by today's standard.
Yeah, I'm sure not by today's standard, but yeah, that's a really good point. I guess they keep it really low. They'd maintain it so well. I mean, you'd have some sheep droppings occasionally.
Sure.
But
it's a hazard.
Whatever.
Right. Right. There's even still some golf courses today, like in Scotland and even Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. They have a herd of sheep that they keep on the golf course, kind of like for like nostalgia, an homage to the olden times.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about sheep. All I know is that like goats require much more fencing to keep in than sheep do.
Because they climb? Or they
jump?
Jump?
Because they like with this, since I got a text from Saul, so I'm gonna see what this is. But we're gonna still record because because we're recording, and if it goes, it goes. So you manage. You teach people how to do this, so then they go off and they take care of all this stuff.
Right. So I did it for a little while. I went, like I said, I got my bachelor's degree in golf course management, and then I worked in industry for a couple of years before I went back to grad school. But currently the horticulture side of the program it kind of went away. And now it's strictly a turf program. And so, I teach people how to manage golf courses and athletic fields a little bit, but 98% of my students are golf course oriented.
Gotcha. So I'm jumping back around to this YouTube Live thing where I don't think it's going to go on YouTube Live. Potato said something about a slider bar, and I slide it to YouTube, and I didn't see anything like that. So I mean, I will need more coaching. But so you okay, so that's really cool. We probably have to have you and Tyler on at some point. And it's some combination again, because Tyler, I'm sure, would have more questions too. And I don't know, that'll be good. But so your first nationals was 2022, right?
Whatever the last one in Talladega was. So that sounds right.
Okay. I should also say that you're a grandmaster in Caryoptics.
Yep, Caryoptics. That's all I shoot. That's all I've ever shot.
Yeah. Can't go wrong.
Right.
At this point. Right. So you shot your first nationals in 22. I went back and looked. You were like 85% at your first nationals, which is like not very many people do that at all. Like I think, I wonder. I wish we had kind of statistics about that. I think we could probably. There are ways to pull it up, but like that doesn't.
Sounds like a Saul problem.
Yeah, Saul could probably figure that out. um, and and
He probably already knows.
yeah, actually he does. This is why we recorded. What did we record the other night? And we were saying things, and Saul was Potato in the Discord was saying that we were getting so many things incorrect. Like, how could we not know certain things?
Right.
But so we'll continue with that. But then you shot the next year, 23, and was it like 89%?
I think so.
Yeah.
88 and change, 89, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 88, 89. And then this year, same kind of thing, like 88, 87, 88, kind of right around.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, percentages are a little bit funny to track in the sense, like at nationals, I think, just because you have different people, you have different things happening.
Right.
But like that, I don't know, that's impressive to be that consistent as well. And I think that's why you are interesting because
Okay.
of like, you've done something to be that consistent, and so that's where I kind of I want to dig into that a little bit more, and then I have questions kind of more around that, but I think it's more interesting. I mean, you've shot a lot of other matches too.
Sure.
I just I look at nationals as being like there's the most amount of pressure there. Like, there's the most. I feel like it's the most accurate reflection of who you actually are at those matches, and so that's why I brought up those ones.
Right. I mean, it's really the only matches that maybe not so much in 2022, but after that match, I kind of realized it's really the only match I care. Obviously, I care about every match I shoot, even locals, I care. But the only match I like really put much stock in is nationals.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized that after shooting my first match, my first nationals, and it was honestly kind of a humbling experience, because prior to that, 85%, and like I hear you say, like that's good at your first nationals. And to be fair, I started in 2020, like July of 2020.
Yeah.
So I had shot for like a year and a half leading up to that national. So that was my first season, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I wasn't psyched about that finish whatsoever.
Of course.
And to be fair, like I was psyched after 2023. I was pretty psyched. I shot a really solid match, -1 stage. So I was psyched with that performance. And then this year, it was a tale of 3 separate matches, essentially,
Yeah.
this past year. So as you say, like, to hear you say that it's consistency, I guess the numbers are consistent, but I don't feel like my performances were consistent.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. And so, like, you're saying, I mean, I think that if you look at least if you look at all the stages together, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe certain ones stood out more in other matches. But I guess I'm thinking about if you put all those stages together.
You're saying from all 3 nationals combined?
Yeah, if you put all of those stages together, that would be pretty good. Like, whatever, however many stages that is, 60.
Right, like 60 stages, yeah.
Yeah. And there would be, like, a small handful that obviously are different. But I guess that's kind of, I'm looking at that definitely from outside perspective, and I think it's easy to look at things and form an opinion on what things are. But also, like, I don't know, your behavior in shooting is, I think it's similar to what mine has been, in the way of well, I don't know, I'm making one of these other assumptions, but
okay.
I mean, so do you go out and, like, try to get a time, or are you more afraid of missing out on a time, or are you more afraid of, like, having a miss?
Having a miss, for
Yeah.
sure. Making mistakes,
Yeah.
shooting mistakes, I should say.
Yeah, shooting
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to the last podcast or a couple of podcasts ago that you guys uploaded. I think it was Saul and Tyler.
Yeah.
And Saul said something, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it was something along the lines of like, you can't shoot alphas fast enough to make up for lost time being careful, or something like that.
Something like that.
And I'm listening to Tyler like talk about his shooting, and I'm like, that's me. Like, that's what I've been. I've just been very careful. And I've noticed I kind of find myself in this cycle. This is something I've been thinking a lot about. So my shooting season's been over for like a month and a half now. I haven't really touched my guns. And so I just kind of think this during the off season is when I find myself like gaining like a lot of mental clarity, because I just think about stuff without really doing it. I just kind of reflect on the season, the past season. And I kind of find myself in this cycle of like, I start the season and my technical skills are rusty, but my times are good. And I feel like I'm like most mentally clear. It's easy for me to get subconscious stage plans and execute those stage plans. But my technical skills are a little rusty. So maybe I shoot more Charlies than I'd like to or whatever.
Sure.
So then I go and I like train on that specific thing. And my mind is still pretty mentally clear. And then I go shoot and I like shoot like a great match. And I shoot like 93, 94% of points. And I'm like right up there with, my stage times are with the best of them.
Yep.
And then I'm like, man, that was really easy. Like that was like effortless. So all I got to do is go out there and just like whatever feels effortless, go do that. And then I go do that. And then I shoot like 95% of points and I'm like way off the pace.
Yeah.
And so then I like find myself rushing to try to get back on the pace. And then it's just like this never ending cycle. And whatever match I happen to be at one of those phases is what Ben you're going to get. And yeah, does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. And that's interesting. That you'll, because replicating what that easy feeling is like the hardest thing to do.
Right.
And you'll experience it, or like, Tyler was saying, you're going out and shooting a local like that, and you're very free, and you're just shooting, and you're making decisions that are, like a little more risky than you normally would, and then going out and doing that again for definitely for myself is like, that's where, so then you get scared, and then you default to whatever it is that you default to.
Right.
And so like it's a really interesting topic, and it's hard to talk about because
so back to like your original point about like me being a careful shooter. I think that what was the point I'm trying to make here? So I think I get like, I'm so afraid of making a shooting mistake that consistency is incredibly easy for me to maintain, that 85 to 91% like it's very easy for me to do that. And if I go above that, and I'm super capable, I've done it a few times. But it's just like the stars align. My mental game is where it needs to be. My technical game is where it needs to be. I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting the process. And on occasion, I can think of like 3 or 4 matches in the 4 and 5 years I've been doing this where that's happened. And it's like so frustrating. And I do that, and I'm like, man, I figured it out. Like, this is who I'm going to be forever. Like, that was so easy. I go up to a stage, and I'm like, I know this is going to be good. Like, I know this is going to be good. I have zero question in my mind that I'm going to get all my hits and my time's going to be where it needs to be.
Did you have some of those stages? I mean, I'm sure you did, but at nationals this year?
Yeah. So the first day, that's where I felt like I was.
And you were on the other super squad, right?
Yeah. So I was shooting with Lane Grease and Wansick and Sean Griffith, and we were kind of like the 4, because we're combined with the ladies super squad.
Yep.
And I think through 2 days I was beating all 3 of those guys, and on the first day I was beating them pretty substantially. And I don't track scores, so I didn't know this until after. My wife, who's very involved with my shooting, she was tracking scores, and she knew kind of where I stood. She didn't tell me until after the fact, but I was winning pretty substantially, and then I kind of lost a little bit of that lead on those guys, but was still winning by day 2, and then ended up all 3 of those guys beat me pretty substantially by day 3. And I found just in that 3-day match, I saw various, those stages that I just described a minute ago. Day 1 was like the clarity and confidence and everything working out. Day 2 was like, all right, I'm just going to do that again, but I'm just going to do everything is going to be effortless. And I shot well, but I was just slow. And then day 3, I was like, oh crap, I got to go fast. And it was just kind of messy.
So
messy and slow. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I've been distracted because Saul said he has joined as a producer and he's going to mess with settings.
Okay.
And then, what is he saying here? Oh, he just wants to hear it early. That's what he's saying. Hi, Potato, and no one else. Unless he figured out how to put it on YouTube. I don't know. So what I'm curious then about is, like, you go day 1 and you're aware of, oh wow, like that was good.
Yeah.
Like because you're picking up on, not based off of scores, you're just basing this off of, like, I know I was shooting well.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then I'm curious now, where you're not training as much. You're out hunting, like you're having a great time. You do this every year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're thinking about this.
Yeah, so like right now I spend a lot of time in a tree stand deer hunting. And sometimes I'll sit there from dark until dark with no cell service or anything. So I'll just think about shooting, among other things, but think about my shooting.
Yeah. And so what are you, like, in this instance where you have day 1 to day 2, what are you going to frame that like in the future, whether it's at nationals or whether it's just like, going from the morning and then between lunch and then shooting in the afternoon? Like, what have you come to any kind of conclusion on that, or is it more like, I don't know, I'm curious.
I guess the short answer is no, I haven't really come to a conclusion on it. I think the thing I keep coming back to is I feel like, and this is probably totally wrong, but I feel like everybody kind of deals with these things to some degree or another, maybe some people more than others.
Yeah.
So if I just get technically better, then
you can cover it up.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Do you see, like, in your own shooting where that's going to come from, like the technical stuff then?
I think I just have to go faster. I think the vast majority of, so I have a very like defined season. So as Saul just pointed out, like I turkey hunt March, April, and May. I'm turkey hunting, and I don't touch my guns. And then at the end of May through August, that's all I do is shoot and train. So what was the question? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I'm still. Oh, whether.
I remember what I was going to say. Yeah. So where am I going to get that tech? So most of my training is, I find myself doing it like how I would shoot a match.
Okay.
Like very rarely in training, and I don't dry fire. When I first started, I dry fired a ton, and I don't do it as much anymore. Just quite frankly, I don't enjoy it. I'd rather just go live fire. So I do a lot more live fire.
Yeah.
But I find myself just shooting practice the way that I would shoot a match, just to try to gain the confidence to know. And I'll do like a little bit of testing where I'll like shoot fast, like shoot really hard and fast, put in a lot of effort, and then I'll shoot like just as fast as I see. And then I'm like, oh, I shot better when I shot as fast as I see. Like if I see the dot in the A zone. And I've never really taken the time to shoot really hard and really fast for a long period of time, at least for several years anyways. I think initially when I started out, I got pretty good pretty quick because all my training was fast. And every match I went to, I shot really, really hard and really, really fast for like 2 years. That's all I did. And I didn't realize that was the best way to get fast. I just thought that's how you got good at USPSA. I just thought you just shoot really, really fast.
Isn't it funny how, like, you'll come back, you'll be like, I mean, Steve Anderson has said this on his podcast a whole bunch of times, where it's like things seem really complicated and then become really, really simple, and then you make them super complicated again,
Yeah, totally.
and then you're like, oh wait, they're just as simple as they were. Or like I say complicated at the start because you're like, you don't understand anything about the game or how it works or like what
Right.
equipment you need, but then you get that sorted out and you're like, okay, I got it. But yeah, okay, so so I hear that as like you already have the ability to go as fast as anyone else, and then it's just a matter of letting yourself do it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the first time. I'm just thinking of, and this was her. Saul was telling me about this because you took a class with Saul, right, up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
With Steger, and he was talking. Saul was talking about the practice stage that you guys went back to a couple times or several, maybe.
Yep.
And like running that from the first time to then really letting yourself open up on it. And I mean, I'm guessing that was one of the instances where you were like, oh, I can do this and still hit everything.
Yeah. I gained a lot of confidence from that class. I think that was relatively early on in my shooting career. I think that was at the start of the 22 season.
Oh yeah.
And I had like just made GM, and I was like doubting whether or not I should like really be a GM or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I went to that class, and there was a lot of good shooters in that class. And I gained a lot of confidence from that. And I think that stage alone, there were several things about that stage that kind of confirmed things that I thought were true. Like stage planning, for instance. Like there was, as you can imagine, this stage is set up for 2 days, and there's 10 of us or whatever coming up with stage plans. We ran it just about every way that you could. And then number one, I'm decent enough at stage planning, and number two, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
But the stage I think of, there was a stage at the New Hampshire State match. Or no, not the New Hampshire State match. The one that's like at the end of the year.
Oh, the Amateur Zero one?
Yes, that one.
Okay.
And I was down. You were beating me by like, I don't know, enough points that I could have got there. And on the last stage, I was like, I'm just going to go for it. Like, I'm just going to get everything I got. And I shot it. I was the fastest stage of anyone, open anything in the match. My hits weren't great, but I was like, I just tighten up my vision a little bit. And that's like that. I could be there with anyone.
Yeah.
If I just do that. But then I never came back to that this year. I think part of my issue is that my shooting season is so short. I don't feel like I can experiment with that type of stuff. I feel like I just have to get to where I want to be to comfortably shoot matches.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that was interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that sense. Like the input is really subtle. Like it's not like if you just what you had said was if you just tighten up your vision just a little bit, then it's like it's there.
Right.
And it's only a little bit. Right. Because it only takes a little bit for it to be just a little.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like I shot the stage. I didn't have any mics or anything, and the time was like super fast, and it was just like you said, just a tiny little bit to turn those two Charlies that were, an eighth of an inch outside the A zone into two alphas. Right. And that's all it was. And quite frankly, Jay, I don't know if I've thought about that stage because it was the last match I shot in 2023.
Right. So you're like,
I don't know if I've really even thought about it until now that we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe some fuel for training.
It might be. Do you take notes on like training or matches at all?
No, I
okay.
don't.
I'm not recommending it.
I know. So I went through like all of high school, all of undergrad, all of graduate school, and I'm like not a note taker. I'm like not a homework guy. I'm a procrastinator. So like I tried to, and I was like, this isn't me. I'm just not gonna
I don't think Saul does either.
Yeah.
No, okay. Because I hadn't thought of it like that before, because I sometimes think about it, it's like, no, I'm going to be like really aggressive with my vision and whatever that means. Like I think I always think of how Tyler says things where it's like it has to be specific, where it's like instead of just I'm gonna be fast, it's like, well, what are you gonna do?
Right.
And then I hadn't heard anyone say it where it was like just a little bit, but it makes sense because like I'll be dry firing and it all it takes is just a little bit, and it's work. I think I mean it's work to put it in probably before the run to make that correct.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know that's interesting to me.
Let me ask you a question. And I feel like I've asked you this question a bunch of times, and I don't. Maybe I just can't wrap my brain around it or whatever. But when I decide that I'm going to be careful, like if there's maybe there's one far target. I think we had this conversation after nationals this year.
Oh yeah.
And there's like one target on the stage that I have to be careful on, and then I shoot the entire stage the way that I want to shoot that one target. And I remember after that conversation, that was early in the season, and I tried to consider that in other stages and in my stage planning, and I just for whatever reason I just couldn't get over that hump. If there's like a swinger that I'm worried about, or if there's like a far partial that I'm worried about, I will shoot the whole stage. Or even if there's not, like, even if I'm just like, all right, I gotta be nice and tidy on this stage for one reason or another. I
Yeah.
find my movement is less aggressive. My transitions are less aggressive. Like everything I do more careful and less aggressive.
I was I mean like it's so easy to do that. I was doing transitions. I was telling Saul about this. I was doing transitions on flat, like they're the same target. It's like one target, the same target here and the same target here.
Uh-huh.
So I'd go across those, and then I would go back, but I would break that sequence by putting in like there's like maybe a mini popper or like a tuxedo in between those ones that I just went flat across. And then what I did flat gets broken because then I can't do it. So then I'm not optimizing like my transition off of the tuxedo or whatever, or it's just it breaks it. And so that's I mean I'm thinking of this in the same way of like you have an element on a stage, and then that single element should not affect the rest. It shouldn't, but it's so it it holds so much weight because I mean that I don't know. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think the conversation that we had was taking note of those elements of the stage and then really making sure that everything else is programmed ahead of time to be its own thing. So like, I mean at that stage maybe we're talking about, is it stage 10 that you're talking about? Or like maybe even the last one.
What was stage 10?
That was the one. I think it had the swinger and a couple of those
It's like a big L, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
There was a few stages on day 3. Zone 3 did that to me a few times. I think the very last stage where there was a bunch of far partials.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember.
It doesn't matter. But like I mean, like maybe you're drawing to a bunch of close targets, and then you're gonna run around, and then you're finally gonna get to these further partials. And I think I fought with, because I don't know if I was telling you, but I knew I was shooting one of those stages like the day before, and I had spent a lot of time kind of thinking about that the day before, on like how I wanted to do that stage, and it was like a lot of effort and I couldn't help it. I was just thinking like, well, like what? Because I was thinking exactly that. Like this target is kind of scary. So I know what I need to do on this target, so I'm going to do that.
So you kind of separate that target from the rest of the stage.
I think that's what I was ending up doing. Like I was like, okay, here's this target, but then what do I need to do over here? And I don't know if anyone did it perfectly in the match.
Yeah.
but I think thinking of it individually for me and then putting it all together kind of when it gets closer to the time that I'm going to shoot, then has made those elements able to connect better for me.
How soon before you shoot a stage are you like 100% confirmed this is my stage plan, this is how I'm going to do this?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I found that like on majors when I can go and walk the stages beforehand, and when I drill a plan the day before and I have all kinds of time to think about those things, that's when it goes really well. It's when
Mm.
I make changes right beforehand. And so I used to just not make changes beforehand. And then shooting with, I think it was Sean who said this, Griffith at Nationals. Him and Lane or whoever were talking about a stage plan that I was like, yeah, that's better than my stage plan, but I'm not going to change it. And he said, that's fine. Like, you're giving me 15 match points by making that decision. You know, or
Yeah,
whatever.
I could totally imagine him saying that too.
Yeah. So, and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's like, if I'm going to shoot it a second faster that way, and I'm just choosing not to do that because I'm not confident in that stage plan. And
Yeah.
on that day and in that moment, the right decision for me to make is to shoot the stage plan that I'm comfortable in.
Right.
Realistically. And it's going to be a second slower, but it's going to be cleaner and better, and I'm going to execute it better. And so ultimately, it probably won't be a second slower. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But had I originally drilled, so that's a hurdle I feel like I need to get over if I'm gonna level up.
Yeah. I mean, I started doing a thing a couple, maybe, I don't know, year and a half ago or something like, nah, maybe more. I don't know. But where I would go up to the stages maybe the day before, and I wouldn't let myself air gun them at all.
Okay.
Like not at all.
So you just kind of walk through and see
I would
what's
just like
where.
walk around and like look at the targets, and then, but that was hard to do because I wanted the plan. And
Right.
maybe I made myself do it because I knew I was going to be shooting some more IPSC or something like that, and I was like, okay, well, I may walk up onto a stage, and I may only have a kind of a rough idea of where the targets are from further back, and I want to be able to do that. But that gave me more confidence to then show up to the same stage, not know what I was going to do necessarily, but know where everything was. So then it was like it was very easy for me to go one way or the other, because then you hear the discussion, because the discussion on the squad is can be super valuable sometimes, because someone will point something out where they're like, oh yeah, no, but like this is a really weird corner to come to from that angle, so like I'm gonna start here or something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like that's valuable.
So something I kind of experimented with, and it was late in the season, so I didn't really get a lot of time to experiment with it, was instead of a lot of times when you come into a position, regardless of when you shoot it in the match or how you come into it, for the most part, you're going to shoot that position the same way. Right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So instead of like memorizing a stage plan, I just kind of memorize each shooting position and what's there. And I experimented with this at the Maryland State match, and it just didn't go well. But I think there might be something to that.
Well, like, yeah, I think I mean, it's a really good way of like quickly gathering what you need from a stage without spending hardly any time on it. But then, Saul and I were talking about a lot after IPSC Nationals this spring about like connection between those positions, if we're gonna call them that, or like whatever they are, and because we were shooting with Nils, and Nils was like, he had some really good stages, and and they were all connected together really well, and not necessarily from the standpoint of like they were blended, but there wasn't hesitation leaving one of those areas. It was like it was an immediate shift to the next task, and then that's where I got really into trying to figure out how to connect all of those together, and that was really valuable for me, I think.
So like, what can you give me an example?
Yeah, like, so there's a position to my right, and I'm gonna draw and go over there and shoot 3 targets, and then I'm gonna run all the way over to the left and shoot 3 targets. And so instead of thinking like, or putting, I think before I would visualize like that, going over there, those 3 targets, and then ending that thing, and then running to the left. And now it's more like, where am I ending over there? And then what am I gonna, like, as soon as I am done, like my attention is shifting immediately to the next thing. And I thought I was doing that, I think. But like there was time left.
So that's more of like a programming thing than it is like, that's not necessarily a technical skill.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
So it's just how do you program your stage plan?
yeah, there was there was time left on every single position, and maybe even every, like, maybe if there was a wide transition too, there was time left on the exit from the target that I was on.
Sure.
Because it was like, I'm done with this, now I shift my attention, and instead it's programming as like to connect these 2 things together. And so then it connects like that last target in that position, then connects my eyes running, over to where I'm going.
Yeah, I think that's really hard to do. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Like up until really like for as long as I've been doing this thing, my idea of like drilling a stage plan and programming it was really kind of just like programming the order that I was going to shoot stuff.
Right.
And like and it might be like, okay, I got to go to like this break in the fault line or whatever. But I kind of realized, and I think this was through conversation with you and Saul after Nationals this year, that it's got to be way more detailed. And I try to do that, and I'm like, man, this is like really hard. Yeah, it's like really hard. And if like you like were like you didn't get a good night's sleep or whatever, then it becomes like way harder. And it's like you really got to be sharp and on the ball to get this
and
stuff.
I when you and then you kind of have to, I think this is like a side programming thing, it wouldn't be specific, but like, in an array where you're going along and there's a piece of steel and you have a makeup on the steel, then like if you get interrupted with something that was like not what you had programmed, then it's so easy to, like, this is a time where, like, I think in the past, I throw a makeup, and then immediately defaults to like, just be careful, don't, like, now like the plan of optimizing whatever I was going to optimize is gone, and connecting all of that, because if you're shooting at a pace that is competitive, like, you're going to have makeups on paper and steel,
right?
And so like that has to be something that you can get around without interrupting that really optimized kind of visualization or whatever.
Yeah, that's, I think my solution to that problem has always been just don't have makeups.
Yeah. Yeah, or you.
It's
Yeah,
just not
exactly.
fast enough, right?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. But it's like that is a solution. But it's like, this is, if we look at what other people are doing, it's like, no, that's not what other people are doing that are getting like, because then you'll spend, so much more time than the makeup would have cost, just being careful.
Right.
I don't know. But it's so hard. Like that's been, and that's still going to be like the.
So how do you practice that?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you that.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, boy, I don't know. I think one thing I catch myself doing, and you hear people all the time saying, "Don't do this," is when I'm shooting in practice and you have, you make mistakes or whatever, and you just like stop the stage run.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think it's bad. Saul and I were talking about this exact thing,
you don't think
actually.
it's bad to stop to stop like if you make a mistake in the middle. Usually, and you know why I usually do it because it's ammo related. Like
Yeah,
I brought X number of rounds, and I want to like run this good.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think what it does, because I definitely do it. And where because it's an immediate correction on something, where you'll like get to do it again and fix it right away.
okay.
You don't like complete the whole run and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna go back and do this. And then in the back of your mind, you're like, I just shot 12 more rounds than I was, and then I'm gonna be able to run this 2 more times or whatever, you know. So if you stop, then you get to fix it immediately. Um,
Right, but you don't get to do that in a match.
no, but it's training.
Right. So I'm thinking kind of as we're discussing this, I'm thinking the solution is or the way to practice this is go like hard, like really hard and fast. And then to the point where you're going to make mistakes and then correct them in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm thinking like a makeup on steel. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if that's the example, it's like you go through and then you have the makeup, you put the makeup back on the steel, and then like I've stopped there sometimes after
Oh, I see what you're saying.
after the makeup was applied.
So you're not saying you miss the steal and then you stop, go
I
back to
mean,
the
not
beginning,
saying
start
I
over.
haven't done that
Sure,
totally.
sure, sure, sure. But you're saying like that, you make the immediate correction and then you stop.
And then I stop, and and then it would be like doing that at the same pace, and then maybe continuing the second run through or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, but I don't know, like, because training is so interesting. It's been really interesting for me for the past couple of years, where I won't, I don't set like hard rules for myself either.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah, I think my training is pretty fluid. Usually it's just like I don't even know. I just get there and I just kind of like set up some targets and make it hard. Like it's kind of
yeah,
just do hard stuff. Um,
do you think to a certain degree it's like because that's also what I want to do. Um, do you do you think that you're already good at the hard stuff?
um, I just I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. This is a good. I've never asked myself this question. I don't know what I'm necessarily good or necessarily bad at. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Does that make any sense? Like I don't. I just feel like I'm fairly consistently decent at a lot of things.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
I never see anything in a stage that makes me feel like like I can't. I
like
was
you
gonna
can't.
say not scared, but I never see something where I'm like, yeah, I can't do that.
Right.
And I feel like my practice is a pretty good mix of things, of skills. Um, and I feel like in a controlled environment in a practice setting, where if I isolate a certain thing, I can do it really well.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, but it's when you combine those things and put them in a stage in a match with pressure, it's almost like that's what matches are designed to do.
Are you a I've because I found myself being like afraid of messing up even in training in a sense. Is it
Yeah, I get
or
really frustrated. I get really frustrated because going back to like the original point you made at the start of this conversation, I like to shoot tighty and I like to shoot alphas.
yeah.
Um, and I feel like if I'm not doing that in training, then it's not gonna, I'm not gonna be able to do it in a match, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Well, I mean, I understand. I like that's
Right.
really
Right. Like if I'm shooting something and I know, like in the past, I could shoot this particular drill or whatever. And I don't shoot a lot of drills, but just for the sake of this example, like I shoot a drill and I know I can do it in this time. And then in order for me to get that time, like I got to shoot more Charlies than I normally would. Like that's incredibly frustrating for me. So to the point where I would like just shoot I'm like, I'm not leaving here until I just shoot all alphas.
Okay.
Or I guess sometimes I just run out of ammo for that practice session. But does that answer your what? I forget what the question was.
No, I mean like that kind of I mean so that would be like what would
I guess your question was like, am I afraid of making mistakes in practice? And I would say my practice resembles my matches very closely.
Right, and you mentioned that early on.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. And I
don't think that's necessarily a good thing. And I think that's why I've plateaued. You know, I just like every major match I shoot, like area matches, I'm stuck at like 92%. In nationals, it seems like I'm stuck at like high 80s. And that's just kind of where I've been for like the past 2 or 3 years.
How often do you go out to the range and practice? During the season or like when you're like
so leading up to nationals, I shoot every single day.
Yeah.
Like 500 rounds for like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And then after nationals, I don't know. I've never really been in a position that I have been in the past two. Like the last 2 nationals have been in June.
Yeah.
And I don't touch my gun until June. So that's usually like 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks of preparation before I go shoot nationals.
So you'll go out and shoot every day.
And then nationals is over, and I'm like not really that motivated to train for, you know, an area match or whatever.
Right.
But so I really don't do a lot of training, except for like leading up to a match that I'm going to shoot. So like for instance, this past season I shot nationals. I shot area 7, so like a week or 2 before area 7, I would go out and train like every day. And then same thing, area 5, same thing, area 8, like so. I guess 2 weeks every day leading up to a major match, just kind of
thing. And I like that sounds really valuable. And I think that I don't know. I've at least been talking to myself about my training and getting past this thing where you're talking about where it's like, because I for so long did the thing where it's like I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna shoot, and this matters. Like this, what I do in training today matters a lot, and so then I put a lot of pressure on it and a lot of importance, and like that's really valuable to a certain extent. But then it doesn't like I wasn't free to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And so then when I've been able to shoot more the last couple of years, I was like, well, what do I actually have to lose if I try something different? and where it's like then you go out and this is still really hard for me to do. And we were talking about it before, but going out and shooting that first run where it's like, this is the pace that I'm like, I'm going to probably be only able to hit this time, maybe at the end of this session, if normally.
Right.
Like, so it's like peak. And that's scary to me because it's like, yeah, but there might be a miss on one of the targets or something like that. So then I find myself talking myself out of it, and this year I'm going to like it's going to take programming to kind of battle that ahead of time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I started to do this a little bit more in the past couple of years, but yeah, it like giving myself permission to totally botch a first match open run, where usually that would be like the great advice for a lot of people is like, yeah, no, go out and test yourself cold or whatever.
So you're saying you're giving yourself permission to do that in a match? Is that what you're saying?
I'm giving myself permission to do it in training so that I find out that I can actually like get away with more in matches.
Okay. Okay.
That's at least how I'm framing it to myself. And what might actually happen is that I just do that at matches. But I'm leaving because in the same way, like I know that I can be consistent no matter what at a match. Um, and so I know that that's there, but I would like to not force that on in any kind of way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so I'm going to let the matches be what they are still. But I'm going to change behavior more in training,
Right.
and at locals for sure. But I haven't shot a local this year, so it's not
Yeah,
really.
I think that's one thing that I have a problem trusting. I like what you just said. Let the match be what it be. And when I can do that, that's when I get my best performance. And I think that's true for pretty much everyone, for most people.
Yeah.
But I never. I think I have to find a way to be okay with shooting a 500 round practice and the hits being horrible, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like if I do that, I'm like that. I suck, and then I do what I know I can do to clean it up and not have my hits suck. But I don't think I'm gaining anything from that. I think it gives me confidence leading up to a major match or whatever. Like I know I can go out and shoot all the targets, and I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
important to have that confidence.
Yeah. But the way I'm thinking of it is like if I'm going to shoot every single day for 3 weeks, then I can do that. I can do my match training runs like a couple of those sessions. So then I'm opened up to like 95% of the sessions are me just doing what I like, what's going to actually benefit me.
Right. Right.
Which again is kind of hard because you don't want to let go of what you like. There's this element of protecting what you think you have.
Yes. Totally. I think it's like a feeling thing. Like I want to feel what I need to feel in order to shoot the way that I want to shoot at this major match. And I want to replicate that feeling again and again and know that I can replicate that feeling on demand.
Yeah.
And so I'm scared to do something other than that because I'm going to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have lost it before.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very interesting. I think it's hard to talk about. I think you've brought up some very, I don't know, some insights with it that I had not thought about before. Just in the sense of like what's going to give you, because I want to still, when I'm like, if I'm going to go out in a training run, I don't want to just be like go fast.
Right.
And then I want it to be specific.
Right.
And I want to, but then that takes effort with like deciding how it's going to be specific and then making sure that I do that. And I'm keep going back to keep thinking about what you had said early on about just a little bit more vision or like tidying things up in a little bit of a way. Because like a tiny bit of intention to look to the center of the target makes like a really, really big difference.
I think there's a lot of value, and I haven't really had an opportunity to test this yet, or I just haven't tested this yet. But I think there's a lot of value in doing things faster than you, like making those mistakes and just knowing, like being able to say what the mistake is after you've made it. Right. And maybe this is like, that's like a super elementary point, but I don't think it's something I don't think it's something I've really done. Like I started to say, when I first started out, that's all I did. I would just go out when I would practice. I would just run the gun as fast as I physically could. And then I go shoot matches and I just go as fast as I physically could. And it was a mess, but I got I made GM in like less than a year from having never played the sport. I think because I was doing that. And then I made GM and I felt like I started to kind of figure things out and figure out how to shoot tighty and still have good scores. And then I just kind of like was like, all right, this is where I gotta be.
Yeah, like let me protect what I have. Like
right.
I work with this.
I also think there's another thing going on with me is that when I first started the sport, I never like making GM wasn't like I was like, oh man, if I could make A class, that'd be kind of cool. And then like I started like my initial classification was M class, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm pretty decent at this thing. Maybe if I could just like go start winning all my local matches, that'd be kind of cool. And then I did that in like a couple months, and then it just kind of got to the point where I never really expected to be to the like where I am now, I never expected to really be there. So
I wonder if this theme is also in the same, because these are personality things, because we were talking with Tyler about it too. Like these are, I wonder if these kind of things, like where you kind of surprise yourself, is also a theme for people who are generally more careful and don't want to make mistakes. And I wonder if those are sometimes or maybe more often tied together as well.
Sure. Yeah,
I don't know.
it could be. I think people who have a little bit more confidence are maybe a little bit more outgoing, I guess, in
Yeah.
terms of like their shooting and making mistakes and being okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least it seems that way. And so like I mean like trying to bring that in more, but again like, and it's a difference from who I am. And so there's resistance there in that sense.
Right. Totally.
To like put yourself out there in your shooting and go for something, when it's so much easier to do what you've always done.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I made the decision, like I said, I was going to shoot local matches this year. Like, I think Tyler was talking about this, or maybe Saw brought this up in reference to Tyler.
Yeah.
That I was going to go shoot locals, and I was just going to go shoot really fast and use them as like practice just to see what happens.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I was like, I have to win this thing. Like, everybody expects me to win this thing. Everybody's like, oh, Ben's here, I might as well go home. And I just can't let myself.
Well, so then this brings, because I wanted to ask you, or like just talk about pressure a little bit, because there's obviously there's pressure, there's ego involved in that, with the local stuff, but also like at big matches, it's the same thing. It's like, well, obviously I couldn't behave like a crazy person and actually go fast because this is a major, and so like it counts, and so then like there's pressure involved with that. So then what do you, I'm assuming that you feel pressure.
Totally.
And then like I'm wondering then, I'm just thinking this now, is like it's obviously a little bit different, but at a local it would probably induce a lot of pressure if you forced yourself to do that thing of like letting go of what you think of, like, oh, people expect me to win, whatever, and letting go and doing the opposite of what, like, against very much against the grain on how you would normally behave.
Yeah. I think so. What I've found, I've done that before, where I've like tried to do the go fast thing at a local match, and I'll make a mistake on a stage, like the first stage or whatever, and I'll be like, all right, well, now I'm just going to tidy things up and just go out there and just shoot the way that I know I can shoot to just go win the thing.
Yeah.
So then I started to try and challenge myself, to like, I don't want to just go win. Like, I want to win every stage, to try and kind of put a little bit more pressure on myself that way. Is that what you're getting at? Like using those opportunities to put pressure to try to replicate what you feel at a major match?
Well, I don't even know if it's that. I'm thinking about like, I was just thinking then about how to make a behavior change that we want at a major.
Okay.
And making it and trying to do that through a local.
I think it's totally a trust thing, like a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Like, I want to feel comfortable when I'm standing up there. Like, I want to feel like I know nothing bad's going to happen. Right. Like, and doing things that make me feel uncomfortable, obviously, are going to make me feel uncomfortable. So, or planning to do things that are going to make me feel uncomfortable when I'm standing there waiting for the beat. Like, I'm going to be standing there uncomfortable, and I'm going to be thinking about things that I shouldn't be thinking about.
Yeah.
Right. So the second I make a decision to do something that is out of the ordinary, that requires conscious thought to be put into that thing.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that generally results in tension and forgetfulness and things like that.
Yeah. And so then does it come back to being really specific, or what? Like, because I'm
I
trying to
think
think.
I just have to go. I think I have to get more comfortable doing things that make me like going fast,
Yeah.
like shooting out of control. This is where I'm at right now with my thought process. Um, I gotta like go to shoot practice, and I just gotta shoot like as fast as I can go. Like I still want to be able to see stuff, like within reason, obviously.
Right.
And I don't just want to fling bullets downrange. Um, but like go as fast as I can, like see dots, like see the A zone, and just like go as fast as I can, and do that a lot to the point where it feels comfortable. And I think the vision will, I think the vision will kind of catch up. I hope.
Because that's what we did when we started. Going back to what you had talked about
Right.
before.
Right.
Like and there was less to worry about in the sense of, yeah, like you're just wanting to adapt to a new level.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
I think when I first started out, it was really easy to do those things because nobody knew who I was and nobody had any expectations. I didn't have any expectations for myself. It was
right.
just like a new fun thing I was doing. Um, and it was fun. It was more fun to go really, really fast and pull the trigger fast and do all those things.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I've got a reputation to protect or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just haven't done those things. So I think that's my plan, is to just go really fast, make myself really uncomfortable in training, and just go shoot a training session. Go shoot 500 rounds and don't shoot a single run the way that I would if it was a match.
Yeah.
And then leave and then think about that and then come back and do that again and do it a few times until it starts to feel comfortable.
Yeah. And leave the range after just making a mistake like that or whatever, because you're out
Right.
of or whatever.
Right.
Like even on the last run where you still don't have anything to protect because that's not what you're there for. Yeah. I like that. And then at a match, you just I think that then the hope is that then that shows up more of
Yeah,
the time.
I think I've seen that happen a couple times. I was talking to Saul about this like at the beginning of the season about how I'll go try to train something that I suck at, and like for instance, so we both shot the New Hampshire State match.
Yeah.
And both of us had the same, like my times are really good, but I shot like 85% of points.
Yeah.
And he had the same issue at that match. And we were talking about like how to fix that. And I went to training and I was focusing really, really hard on just like shooting on the move, particularly when I was shooting on the move that I was dropping once. And so I was like, I'm just going to set up targets that are really hard to shoot, tight partials, like far open targets, whatever, and shoot them on the move and just shoot alphas. And it was like really, really hard to just shoot out. Like no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't shoot the stupid alphas.
Yeah.
Right. But I trained that for like a few days and I just felt frustrated and I was like, whatever, I just suck. I got to go shoot area 8. I'm just going to go shoot. And then I shot like 90, I don't know, a percentage of points that I was happy with.
Yeah.
At area 8. And it just happened. It just showed up. So I think I just have to trust that if I do these things in practice, even if I'm not seeing the results in practice, when I go to a match and do the things that I've done again and again and again that have gotten me that consistency that you mentioned early on, those things I do in training will show up at the match.
Yeah. Yeah. And not overanalyzing like, oh, this, like, is this training even working? Like, should I change something? It's like, well, no, I'm just going to work on this thing that I think I need to work on for a couple days. And then I'm going to go shoot another match. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to work on another thing. And I'm going to keep working on all of these things all the time. And then my match performance will be what it is. Because you obviously have some kind of system that you use at a match to keep you from bouncing all over the place with your thoughts. Like
Right.
You'll get up to the line or whatever, and you'll have thoughts that come in, like you were talking about. Is there anything specific that you do in those circumstances where it's the first stage of nationals or whatever, and your heart's beating really fast, and you have thoughts come up of like whatever they are. I don't know. We don't even have to give examples of them, but they're thoughts that are not going to be helpful for the stage specifically. Do you have anything that you do in those instances, or specific, or?
Yeah. So I just think about a specific thing, kind of like a focus phrase, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Where like just think about a specific thing that I know is going to get me a good result on every shot.
Sure.
Right. So if it's a particular like, and it might change from stage to stage, but most of the time it's just like see the center of the A zone. I'm just see the center of the A zone, and that tends to get me where I want to be. If I find things creeping in, so a lot of times I will doubt maybe a part of my stage plan, or I'll be like unsure, like maybe I changed my stage plan, and I will doubt a part of that stage plan, and then I will just restart. I'll totally restart my make ready. Or there's been instances where someone will like talk, like they will say something to me, or say something and I thought they said it to me, and that I think just totally restarting the stage plan. And if when I walk up to the line and I have a subconscious stage plan, I get a lot of comfort in running through the stage plan and fast forward, without any hesitation.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Cool.
If I can just rip through, like boom, 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 this is what I'm going to do, and there's no hesitation, there's no thought, there's no like doubt in what I'm going to do. That's super calming. Like super, like I get a lot of confidence in that.
Yeah, calming and like a lot of confidence, because then, and you're ready then.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know I can shoot all this. I know I can shoot all the shots that I need. I can make all the shots I need to make, and I know what I need to do to get to the end of the stage. Right. That's what a stage is. Right. You got to make all the shots, and you got to get to the end of the stage without hesitation.
Yeah. Yes, without hesitation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, like, I mean, I'm thinking. I mean, after day one, I didn't specifically. I didn't dig into scores after day one, but yeah, you did really well on day one.
I think I was like 13th or something like that.
Yeah.
After day one, 15th, something like that.
Yeah. And pretty bunched up. I mean, points were pretty bunched up too. It wasn't like it was 13th and way back. It was like everybody was within, I don't know, a certain amount of points after those first stages, or like that top group. Yeah. And that first day you felt that on most of the stages then? You walked up?
So the first stage was I was off the pace. And it was just I just chalked up to nerves, and I was cool with it. And I think that was helpful. I think I could have got down on myself, but I knew, I'm like, this is a 20-stage match. This is my first stage. I'm shooting with guys that I've always presumed to be better than me. And after that, I was really happy with every stage for the rest of day one. And again, I wasn't looking at scores. And they were like posting the times and stuff. I was trying not to pay, like they were like the live clocks, feed of the time. And I was trying not to pay attention, but sometimes it's hard not to hear it. And so I was hearing it, and I was happy with where my times were when I did hear it. So I was, I felt confident after day one, for sure.
I mean, I think that there is a lot of value on putting attention, especially at matches, on the things that do work, and like what you did to make that happen, in that behavior that you had. And I'm thinking for myself too, like stages that were good, like I'm going to put much more attention on those ones than the ones that I'm not happy with how I performed. I'm not going to. I think maybe it's the same thing in training, where it's like I'm not actually going to worry about what's happening. Like I'll just trust that I can move forward on this.
Right.
Obviously, I think there are things like in a match where you have to make corrections. Like,
so I think what happened to me at nationals is what I was doing on day one and what I thought I was doing were two different things. Right? Like I thought I was going out there and I was just like super easy, just kind of cruising through a stage and shooting some alphas, and like that's what I was doing. But looking back, like reflecting back on the match, on day one, I was actually shooting like really aggressive. I was doing
Yeah.
everything really aggressive. I was just shooting discipline.
Yeah.
Like everything but the seeing the A zone and pulling the trigger was really aggressive. Everything but the seeing and shooting, pulling the trigger.
You could probably, I mean, you can probably tell from your video too, the same way.
Yeah, for sure. You watch video from day 2, and I look like I'm out for like an afternoon stroll through these stages. And so I knew it. Like I knew it. And I felt what was so frustrating to me is I'd finish a stage and I'd be like, I felt pretty good. I'm happy with that. And then I'd be like 2 seconds off the pace. And so now there's like the confidence is starting to go.
You're doubting what's working,
right?
Or like what you thought what you were doing. You were doing what you thought you did day 1,
right? But I obviously wasn't.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, totally. Yeah, and then you don't catch that until the end of day 2.
And so now my confidence, right? And so my confidence is shot, and I think I caught it relatively early in day 2. I just didn't know how to fix it. I was like, man, I keep doing what I was doing yesterday, and I'm still slow. So then I was like, well, maybe these other guys, they were just kind of using day 1 to settle in, and so they were going slow. So now I got to go really fast. So to keep up with these guys, and so then that's what I did on day 3, and it was just like I was just a ball of tension.
Tension just comes in.
Yeah.
That's it's. I'm really glad you. I don't know. Thank you for, I don't know, describing all of that, because it's interesting, and like you said at the beginning, like it was 3 different matches.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I kind of want to leave this podcast kind of where it is. Okay. Like it. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot in there. I'm gonna have to re-listen to some of this too. But I don't know. I think you should. What we should do is have you back on at some point with definitely with Saul.
Okay.
And we're still recording, by the way, and this is not getting edited out, but because no one's gonna.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, I would be really good to have you back on with Saul and Tyler, or even like Jeff or Jeremy, any of the mix, and I definitely would want to be back on for that too. But
cool.
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add? Is there anything that we left out?
I don't think so. Probably, but
I mean, I'm sure there are.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this was good. I think I thought sometimes it's good to just like say them out loud. I have these thoughts, like I said, I sit in my tree stand and I think about these things. But sometimes when you say them out loud, maybe it makes a little more sense or doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure, for myself, that has been the case. Yeah, just like saying things out loud, and then you make sense at least to yourself as you're saying them out loud. Whether that's in like the way of I should continue thinking this way or I should modify that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about. I think I have a little list here that I wanted to talk to you about. I think we covered pretty much all of it. You are going to be a dad soon.
I am. Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
I'm excited. We're excited. So that's going to change things. I think it's going to change the shooting schedule next year. We're having a daughter.
Yeah.
And she's due February 1st. So late January, early February, she'll be here.
Yeah.
So I think the plan next year, maybe this will be really good for me in my shooting, is to just train a lot more around home and shoot a couple of matches. One of the nationals, I'm not sure which one yet. I'd really like to not shoot nationals in June and then be done. So I don't know. I haven't made any decisions yet, and I've also never been a dad before, so that could change plans. I got to figure out how to do that part. But luckily I'll get a little head start before the season starts, February and March and April.
Yeah.
And then figure out what's feasible with an infant baby. because my wife does all this stuff with me as well. So she wants to continue
Right.
to do it with me. I want her to continue to do it with me, and I assume that's going to be more challenging with an infant. But I've been toying with the idea of shooting IPSC nationals. I think that's in August.
Yeah.
Or maybe even just go shoot limited optics in Utah, just so that I can have a nationals at the end of the year to kind of motivate me throughout the season.
It's just like a well placed match in that sense.
Right.
And I bet it's probably gonna be like a really good match too.
Yeah. Yeah.
At a good range. I haven't been there before, but
I've never been to Utah, but I want to go to Utah. It seems more appealing than Ohio.
yeah,
Although Ohio would probably be easier with an infant. So I don't know.
It may, yeah, maybe.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that having a in certain ways having an infant or this whole thing, like it makes training maybe more focused. At least it did for me.
Yeah.
It made my training way more focused.
Yeah.
And it also made me I don't know, it made matches easier in a sense of they weren't the most important thing.
Yeah.
At the time, like they're obviously still really important, but it was a really cool. I don't know. I'm really excited for you.
Well,
I think this is only good things.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited to share. My wife and I were having this conversation before she was pregnant. That we do a lot. We travel. We turkey hunt all over the country, and we travel to matches all over the country, and we still enjoy all that stuff. But it's kind of lost its luster a little bit. Like when we go to a cool new place and shoot a turkey in like some crazy place, it's still awesome. But to be able to share that with our daughter, like that's going to make it that much more awesome. So
yeah,
really excited about it.
That's going to be cool. And speaking of turkey hunting, we do have to get you up here at some point to kill all of the turkeys that eat our blueberries.
Yeah,
there are a lot. There are a lot of them.
A lot of turkeys or a lot of blueberries?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think my dad, who probably won't listen to this podcast, but if he does, that'd be funny. I feel like he's protective of the turkeys.
Oh.
Like he's like, these are my turkeys to get. I'm like, but yeah, you're not hunting them.
Well, he can go. Like, I'll just call and he can shoot, and then it'll be a win-win.
Yeah.
But I'm there. This May.
We got to do it. May.
Yeah.
We got to do it. We'll shoot, and you can shoot a turkey.
Perfect.
Or
your dad can shoot a turkey.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. That'll be a good plan.
Cool.
Yeah, we got to do it. Anyway, dude, it was really good talking to you.
Yeah, you as well.
Hopefully, I can wrap this podcast up without deleting the entire thing. I think I can do it. I haven't done this before.
Is Saul here? Does Saul have the capacity to do that stuff for you?
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything from him.
Okay.
He's just selfishly in here listening before anyone else can, apparently. There's like even a chat button. He didn't say anything.
Oh, can I see the chat? I don't see anything.
I don't know.
All right.
But I'll wrap up the podcast. Jeremy always says break it like a biscuit. I don't really get that one.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know what it means. I never asked him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any ideas for like an ending thing?
Oh boy. I don't really have a catchy catchphrase.
Well, Jeff always says pinch it off, and then
well, we can't use somebody else's.
Yeah, we can't use those other ones. I don't know. We'll just close it out. We're gonna close it out right here.
Yeah, let's close it out.
Yeah. Hit Factor people, stay listening. The Discord is apparently free right now. Apparently.
I'm not on the Discord. Should I get on the Discord?
Yeah, I will send you an invite link.
Okay.
And then
Cool.
If anyone listening wants to get on the Discord, bug somebody for an invite link on to the Discord. I don't know, send me a message, whatever. And then, because anybody in the Discord can send an invite link. So anyway, I will do that for you.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. Let's end it here. Hit Factor out.